Hello and welcome to the Learn to Quilt class at Watergirl Quilt Co. I'm Michelle, I'm the owner of the store, and I'm so happy to learn that you have an interest in learning how to quilt, or maybe you've signed up for this class because you're self-taught and you want to refine your skills a bit. Welcome, and I really truly hope you enjoy your class with Maureen Taylor, the instructor of our Learn to Quilt sessions. So today I am going to walk you through some things that will help you be prepared for your classes. So first off, let's talk about what is a quilt. Simply said, a quilt is 3 layers and we stitch through it. So for example, here's a layer of fabric. Then we have some type of batting in the middle. This one is cotton. And then we have another layer of fabric at the back. We actually call this a quilt sandwich. So when you come to class, you're going to make a beautiful quilt top that's all pieced together with squares and some triangles. But for the purposes of this demo, this could turn into a simple little quilt. All I have to do is stitch a design through the 3 layers and it qualifies as a quilt. So what kind of supplies do you need to make a quilt? Let's run through the items that we have put on the supply list for you so you can get some visuals and understand why you need them. So just in random order, first on my list is you need a rotary cutter, okay? There are different types of handles for the rotary cutters. This one we squeeze, this one we just hold solid in our hand. But what's common is this blade, and we suggest you get the size called 45 millimeters. That is the most widely used size, most practical one. And you're going to need one of these. They come with a brand new blade in them. This is for cutting your fabric. We don't use scissors to cut our squares, our shapes for our quilt because it's not as accurate. So what do you use with this cutter to make it accurate? So this is your rotary cutter. You need to choose one. You use a ruler and you put your rotary blade against this ruler when you cut your fabric so you get beautiful straight lines. So you need the longest ruler you can get. This is a 24-inch long. Why do we recommend 24-inch? Because most of the time when you're cutting your fabric, you need to be able to cut at least a 22-inch long strip. So this will cover the whole piece of your fabric in class. This one is 6.5 inches wide. They come in 6 inches wide, 3 inches, 8, 12 inches. This is the most all-purpose size, is a 6 or a 6.5 inch by 24. So we recommend that. And then the last piece you need to do your cutting is you need what's called a rotary cutting mat. Okay, these come in 4 or 5 sizes. We have a variety of sizes for your budget here at the store. If it is in your budget right now, we recommend you get the big one, the 24 by 36, because it is the most useful size. Okay, so you will get more longevity out of that mat. You'll be able to use it for more things. So that's the first part you need to be able to cut your fabrics. Alrighty. Then there's 2 more rulers you need, 2 little ones. We're going to teach you how to make a block called a half square triangle. And for that, you need a tucker trimmer ruler and this little one called a magic wand, a quilter's magic wand. Now you're going to be thinking there going, oh my gosh, this is so many things to learn. Please don't worry. Maureen is going to teach you how to use every one of those tools. Please place your trust in us and the staff that we will help you get the right tools you need, and Maureen will make sure you understand how to use them and why you need them. Okay, so then the next thing is you need some basic types of notions, which I'm sure you've already thought of. You need thread to sew your quilt together with. We suggest Orifil cotton, but you can use any kind of cotton thread. This is the brand we sell. It is a 50 weight, all-purpose cotton thread. It's important you use 100% cotton, not polyester. You'll learn more about that. It'll come up in class. For piecing it together, we want a spool of cotton. I recommend a neutral color. Don't match your fabric because you want to be able to see what you're stitching to know if you're doing it correctly. So something in beige, white, pale gray, those all work nicely. You're going to need some pins. This is my favorite one, the magic pins. They come in this little case, you can see there. They have a silicone grip, so they're nice if you have trouble, your hands hurt. It's easier to hold on to them. You don't have to squeeze as tightly, and you won't lose them in the little box. So you need some pins, or you can use what we call the acorn seam align glue. And this is a little glue to hold your pieces together before you go to the sewing machine. This is our best-selling product in our store of quilters, from beginners right up to people who've been sewing for 50 years. They say the discovery of this product changed enormously how well their quilts turned out. And Maureen will show you how to use this. This is the Acorn Starter Pack. It's a great Canadian-made, Canadian-designed product. So you can use glue instead of pins, or I actually like using both. There's a time and place for both. Okay. Sadly, you probably need a seam ripper. You might even have one that already came with the little tools in your sewing machine, so please check that out. But if you don't have one, you need a seam ripper, a sharp one, good quality. We have a few of those available. You're also going to need a little pair of scissors just for snipping threads. Any tiny little scissors for fabric. These are my favorite. They're Canadian little LDH scissors. Come with a cute little case so you keep them safe. They don't get banged up and scratched. So you'll need some type of scissors for snipping threads. Little ones are a little easier to handle with when you're trying to cut, threads that long that are sticking out of something. Okay? You don't really need a big pair of scissors because we're going to cut our fabric with our rotary cutters. Okay? And then the other thing is you need some type of fabric marking tool. We like these water erasable ones because they don't come off until you wet them. And that's great because you're going to be having downtime between classes and you wouldn't want your lines to disappear if you've drawn some things in class and you need to finish it later. Okay, so I like the water soluble, and you can also use a chalk pencil. We have those as well. Alrighty, so those are the basic supplies you will need to have for the first class. By the second class, and definitely the third, you will be looking at, how do I put this sandwich together and hold it together? There's a couple of ways. Some people use a spray. Some people use a special safety pin that's curved and made for quilting, has like an elbow shape in it. You'll need to get some of those. Wait until Maureen talks to you about it a little bit more in class and shows them to you, and then you can decide which one you think is the best option for you, but you will need to get some. You'll also need to get some batting then. But again, don't overload yourself right now. You can get that here when it's time to use it, okay? And you'll have to decide on a color of thread to quilt it. And again, wait until the quilt top is made, and then you can really know for sure you like the color of thread you'll choose. Okay, now you need to have a sewing machine in working order and have a basic understanding how to operate that sewing machine. In other words, please, if you don't know how, take the time to look at your manual or look up some YouTube videos for your model of your sewing machine. We'd really like you to know how to thread your machine, how to wind a bobbin, how to change your needle, and obviously how to turn it on and off, that type of thing. Maureen's going to teach you how to sew a 1/4-inch seam allowance, which is a crucial skill of becoming a quilter, is sewing a 1/4-inch seam allowance. But she's going to teach you that, so don't worry about that part. But please understand how to turn on your machine, thread it, wind a bobbin, change a needle, change your presser foot. So when you come to class, have tested your machine to know that it's working, in case it's been sitting there in the dust for a while, and have your manual with you, and bring everything that goes with your sewing machine. Every tool, every foot. It's just good to have it in case something happens and we want to try to help you. Okay. The other thing you'll need when we get to putting your stitches through the quilt sandwich, you'll need a walking foot for your machine. This is an example of what mine looks like for my Bernina. They're all similar regardless of your brand. They'll have some kind of thing that, mine kind of looks like a dinosaur head. You'll have some kind of arm here on yours, and then it looks really big and clunky. And as a new sewer, I remember thinking, this thing is scary. It looks like a surgical tool. It might hurt me. Stay away from it. No, this is one of your best friends as a quilter. We will make sure you understand how to put it on your machine. This foot, a walking foot, is a game changer when you get to doing the part of stitching through all of your layers. You will need one, okay? If you don't have one now, find a sewing machine dealership that sells your brand of machine and give them a call and tell them you need to get one, okay? So you will want that for after the first class. Alrighty, so that is about your supplies. We're going to now go on to showing you the little small quilt you will make and talk about how to pick your fabrics. So now that you have your supply list gathered, let's talk about my favorite part, choosing the fabrics for your quilt. So this mini quilt you're going to make, it measures, I think it's about 34 inches square. It could be a nice table topper or a quilt for a child. And you're going to need 6 fabrics for this quilt. Now, you are going to need a variety of what we call color values of fabric, and I'll explain that just a moment. But essentially, you're going to need to try to have some dark color values, some medium color values, and some light color values, and I'll explain how you find that. So, my 6 fabrics that I have here, it's probably very easy for everyone to identify that counts as a light fabric. Where am I going? Right here. That creamy fabric, that is definitely a light color value fabric. My eyes immediately recognize that, okay? And this black here, my eyes can immediately recognize that that is a dark fabric. So those two are pretty easy to figure out. You're going to want to have 1 or 2 lights, 1 or 2 darks. But how do you find those medium ones, and how do you know if they really are medium? So we look at this nice turquoise, we look at this deep fuchsia, we've got this gold color, we have an orange. How do we know if they're medium, lights, or dark? So there's a really neat tool we have, and it's called a grayscale color finder. And so what it means is, my brain actually sees this in color, as long as I'm not colorblind, but my brain can also detect these values by looking at that fabric. However, my eyes don't always seem to get it. I don't know what the connection is. All I know is there's definite science to color value and how it will create a really pleasing look in your quilt. So, if you come into the store to have us help you, what we do is we'll have you pick a variety of fabrics that you think are light, medium, and dark values. Then what we do is we lay them on the counter and we take a picture of them with our phone camera, and then we change the picture to black and white on our phone. Now that's the same quilt. Is that not cool or what? There it is. There's the quilt we're looking at, okay? So that's those right there. See these blocks right here? Those 2? Here they are in my quilt. So that orange looks quite dark in my quilt, but it's not as dark as I thought it was. So to make sure you're happy with your selection, then what you do is you have your photos in black and white. You don't have to print it. I did it so I could show it to you easier. You can just have it there on your phone, your iPad, and then hold this up to it and find them. And then I can say, that's definitely a dark, right? That's really dark. So that black is a great pop. And we want one of your fabrics to pop and really stand out from the others. In this quilt visually, the black does it, right? Or the white could be my pop, okay? And then when I hold this up, I can really see the lights for sure. There's those light fabrics, okay? But it's the mediums that get tricky. It's in this area that gets hard for our eyes to know for sure. And so when I look at this, I can hold it up and see, there's a pretty good match right there. So I know that fabric's a medium. That's the orange one. on my quilt. Let's find where that pink is. Okay, there's the pink. So the good news is that pink is more on the dark side. Great, that counts as another dark. And this is how I can help myself to find a really good arrangement of what we call color values. And that's the science my brain will recognize and go, ooh, nicely laid out quilt. And then the other part of my brain will say, oh, I love the pop of black. Oh, orange is my favorite color. So it's a really cool science to it. All right, now, so you're going to get 6 fabrics, 1/4 yard of each. You can use what we call a fat quarter, which is basically a rectangular piece of fabric, and the area, surface area of it equals 1/4 yard, or we can just cut a long 9-inch strip off the bolt, and that will work for you too, and that's 1/4 yard. Okay, or 1/4 meter is also fine. So, are you going to wash your fabric or not before you come to class? And that's a very hot topic in the world of quilting. If you're coming from a background where you've learned to make clothes, the golden rule is always wash your fabric before making clothes. Why? Fabric can shrink a little bit. You want it to fit you. Okay? So then you say to yourself, well, then do I need to wash the fabric for a quilt? I'm not wearing it. Well, I say, no, you don't need to. Your instructor, Maureen, will say, yes, I prefer to. So here's what it comes down to. These modern fabrics in 100% cotton hardly shrink at all now. The quality is so well made when you buy designer fabrics like we sell in our store. So do you need to wash it because of shrinking? Probably not. However, fabrics have dyes in them. They have something called sizing in them to hold it together. That's not the right way to explain it. It helps with the structure. It always gets washed out as soon as you wash your quilt anyways, so it's not something that needs to be left in the fabric. But some people are sensitive to those dyes, to the process of making the fabric. There are mild chemicals in them. Some people are sensitive to this, such as Maureen. And so for people who have sensitivities, you should consider washing your fabrics before you sew with them, so you have a more enjoyable experience while you're handling them, while they're close to you, you're inhaling. You know yourself, and please make the decision best for you. I am not bothered by dyes or anything like that, so I do not wash my 100% cotton fabrics. Okay, now, you may want to get something called a dye catcher. We have them here at the store. And whether you're going to wash your fabric before or if you're going to wash your quilt after, I recommend having some of these, because this will catch any of the dye that bleeds into the water in your washing machine. Have you ever made a mistake and thrown something dark into your white load? You might end up with gray socks instead of white socks, right? Because the dark fabric leaches dye into the water and the socks pick it up and absorb it. This is going to pick up the dye and absorb it for you when you put a sheet of it in your washing machine. There's 20 sheets. It's going to last you a long time. You may find clothes you want to use it on. It's not just for quilts. It's called a dye catcher. So whether you decide to wash your fabric before or after, this is good to use. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because when this quilt is all made and I throw it in the wash, goodness gracious, I just broke my mom's rule when she taught me to do laundry as a kid. You don't put a white with a black. You're going to end up with those gray socks. So then you want to use one of these when you're washing it after. Okay? Now, if you're washing your fabrics before, you might not need this. You can plan it and take the time to throw in the white fabric with your white loads, throw in the dark fabric with your dark loads, and then you wouldn't need this. So that's just a few tips on choosing your fabrics and on whether you should pre-wash before sewing or not to pre-wash. All right, so we hope that you'll come into the store, because Angela, Kathy, Jackie, or I would love to help you work your way through the process of the color values to choose some fabulous fabrics for your quilt.